We are live, Robbie Hummel, and we'll wait here for a second to get this populated. Make sure we're good. I'll retweet it. You can retweet it, and you just got done working. This is double duty for you,
man. The no travel makes this like a totally different deal, where you can literally do a different game every night. And I know for me, like, it's different because there's not many people that I guess work at like multiple places, and I've been fortunate to be able to do that. But it also comes to a point where I have like a game legitimately like every night. Like, so it's like it's been a lot of planning ahead here this week.
And you're training, and you're training during the day. This is
that's probably the hardest part. Is like, aside from like, I bet I put in for each game I do. You know, I watch both teams' last game. I keep a notebook of every player that plays on every team I see, and I just what they like to do.
Yeah.
So that, like, once you start seeing the teams multiple times, that part is done. But early in the season, that's like an hour a team of going through stuff. So
that's why you love Iowa, Wisconsin, the veteran teams.
Yeah, because you've seen them and you know
exactly.
You can get through it a little faster. So yes, that certainly helps. But so the prep time, I bet it's probably 5 or 6 hours a game, like, of watching those games and then making that kind of personnel notebook. And then you've got an hour of weights every morning, and you've got an hour on the court 4 days a week. So it's like there's just not enough hours in the day. You know, it's like,
right, listen, I don't feel bad for you because
you feel bad for me.
You had all since March to sit on your ass and do absolutely nothing.
That's true. Very true.
So as we're doing this, Northwestern is hanging on for sort of dear life, but they withstood a punch from Indiana. Indiana kind of came back, and Northwestern's still up 5 right now. You saw Northwestern recently. Indiana just hit a big 3 to cut it to 2. Is this team for real? Like, are we circa 2017 Northwestern again, or no?
I would say this year, no, but I think that this group, that's the kind of foundation that they've set for maybe next year or the year after. They're really young. You know, they've got a really interesting young group of players, pretty skilled. And, you know, Boo Buie, I've seen him the last 2 years against Michigan State. He's had their number. Like, he can get buckets. He has gotten buckets against those dudes. But no, it's going to be interesting, like, especially because everybody could come back again. Like, you've got a guy like Anthony Gaines, who he's played for 3 years. He's a role guy. If he wants to, he can come back for another 2 years if that's what he chooses to do. You know, Pete Nance is an interesting player. They're playing him at the 5, and I think that it's better for him. Like, he killed those Michigan State big guys. Like, they tried every one of them. They tried Kithier on him. They tried Bingham on him. They tried everybody on him, and it's just they couldn't guard him, you know. And Miller Kopp is a nice piece. He's a good player. Like, they're young, you know.
They're a year away from probably going to the tournament. But if they can get in the NIT, well, there's probably not going to be an NIT this year. But if they can be a team in that 68 to like 90 range, this year, then next year. And I'm a big Chris Collins guy, and a bunch of people have hit me on him like he should be on the hot seat. He should be in the hot seat. I'm like, no, you're right. They've been terrible the last 2 years. Absolutely terrible. But let's not forget what Northwestern was and what he did. And that, to me, getting them to the NCAA tournament gives him a lifetime contract at Northwestern. It really does.
No doubt. They've got to figure out how to win. That's their biggest thing, like learning how to win. The Pittsburgh game is the perfect example. Like, you know, you should be up by 25 points in the first half, like the way that they played and the way Pittsburgh played. But no, I really like Chris Collins too. I've got a good story about it. I'm going to tell it right here. He sends me a handwritten letter, like my junior in high school. And I'm going to visit NC State and UNC Charlotte because I've got offers from both Herb Sendek and Bobby Lutz. So because I get this letter, I'm talking to my parents. I'm like, you know, we should go visit Duke. Like, I'm getting recruited by him, you know, and so I go into the other schools, and on the last couple of days there, I head over to Duke and I go to the scrimmage, and the scrimmage is big time. Like, it's one of those practices where there's like 200 high school coaches there just to watch, and they're all sitting up top at Cameron, and I'm sitting behind the bench with my mom and dad, and the Duke team was loaded. Like they had Reddick, Sheldon Williams, McRoberts. This scrimmage was like fun to watch. Like these Paulus, a lot of dudes. Like they were really good that season. And after the scrimmage, Chris Collins comes over and he's like, hey guys, like, thanks for coming. I'm going to bring Coach K over.
Yeah.
So he goes and gets K, and K comes over and he's like, hey guys, like we really appreciate you coming all the way from California to see us. My mom is like, oh no, we're from Indiana. Like she didn't realize that like he has no idea who we actually are. And he's like, no, you're from California. He literally he had no idea.
No idea who you are.
That moment I was like, dude.
You were like on the depth chart of Duke's recruiting. You were like on page like 12.
Exactly. They were recruiting Kyle Singler. They probably were like, we're definitely getting him.
Maybe they like, just like you were the white kid, like down the chart, it was like Kyle Singler and how many other white.
There was like 10 dudes, like 10 dudes in between Singler and me.
Well, it's funny. Duke back then, Rob, they used to pick like one guy per position.
I know. They didn't recruit.
Not recruit. Carolina used to go a little bit heavier. Duke used to, and they changed that maybe, I don't know how many years ago, but I remember they had to change their recruiting philosophy because they were missing out on dudes and they didn't know who to go after. They were so late in when they missed out on their A guy.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely how they operated back then. But the funny part about that story is that John Shire will text me like once every like 10 months and be like, yo, we're in the office laughing about how Coach K thought you were from California. I'm just like
classic. All right, let's move on. You did the Illinois game tonight. Northwestern still up 2 with 2.5 to go. You did the Illinois game tonight, in which early on, man, by the time I flipped it, the game before it, I can't remember what game was right before it, but whatever game was before it.
Rutgers, Ohio State.
Yeah, Rutgers, Ohio State had just ended. They flip it over. It's like 19-4. Yeah. Illinois is down early. And I'm like, whoa, Penn State? Really? They're going to lose this one? There's no way they can lose this game. Losing 3 already. They can ill afford to lose it. Then they turned it on. And really, to me, I thought the difference was just Kofi. Like,
he was.
They had nobody. They just kept getting him the ball. And you said it. You were like, they should keep going to him, go to the well over and over and over because nobody can stop this guy in the paint. That's what they did.
It was a tale of two halves for Illinois, honestly, in the sense that in the first half, late in the half, Kofi was dominant. Like John Harris, the only big guy that has any size for Penn State. He gets a second foul. It was over with. Like Trent Buttrick has no chance.
None. It's like me guarding him.
It was certainly going to be a challenge, and they fed him and they got it to him, and he was dominant. Second half, it was Ayo. Yeah. Man, Ayo was getting in the paint. He was making plays. They were running pick and roll for him. He was getting whatever he wanted. Like he was using his size at the rim. The points in the paint was the difference, and those two dudes were by far the best 2 players on the floor.
All right, so here's my question to you on Ayo. You've seen him a ton. I had him before last season as a lottery pick.
Yep.
And he was nothing like a lottery pick for most of the season. Like, I mean, at the end there, you started to see it a little bit more, but he didn't shoot it well enough. Where do you see Ayo in the NBA?
It's interesting, man. He's shooting it better this year, and that's going to be the big thing for him. Like, he's got an NBA body. You know, he's an NBA athlete. There's no question about that. He's got good length. But it's a make shots league, you know, and I think that there's a serious question about can he make shots at that level. And I mean, like, you know, Etuan Moore is a good example. Like, big guard. Like, he has found a way to survive and even thrive at times in that league. And because of that, he's coming on his 10th year pro as a 10th year pro. So
look at Joe Harris. Look at Joe Harris and the amount of money. Like,
Joe Harris is hard as a shooter. And in the NBA, you have, like, for me, I was good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
I wasn't great at anything, which probably is like, that's like no man's land at that level.
It is. They say that. Like, if you're not great at one thing, you're not lasting. You're probably not making it there, and you're certainly not lasting.
It's 100% true. Like, because if you're elite at something that can mask the other deficiencies you have, like if I shoot 45% from 3, We can live with Rob not really being a great on-the-ball defender, like that's okay.
Yes.
But when you're shooting 36 or 34, now all of a sudden those questions start creeping up a little harder. So I think with Ayo, he's got a good pull-up. He's got good size. I wonder about him as a three-point shooter. And I think he's willing to do like things like Etuan has. Like Etuan has embraced it. Like whatever you need me to do, you need me to bring the ball up, you need me to guard, like that's fine. I think he'll do that. But I don't
know if he will as easily. Like Etuan had that personality. I think Ayo's going to come in a lot differently, Rob, because he's come into the league now. He's going to be a top 10 pick most likely. So he's going to come in with a lot more expectations, a lot more pressure than Etuan came in with the Celtics. When honestly, he had less pressure than Juwan Johnson.
No, he did. All he had to do was literally just chill on the bench, and watch Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, and that's a great point. Like he didn't have any expectations. Now he also could have easily been one and done out of the league.
Totally.
Like, Ayo's going to get multiple chances because of that. So there's two sides of that coin. Like being a second round pick isn't like
you're fighting
balls and gumdrops out here. Like it's a different. There's some drawbacks to that as well. But yes, there's going to be some expectations and with that comes, like, if you start out as Etuan as a role player, then people will look at you as you're a bust.
Yep. Your biggest concerns with Illinois, I assume I have a pretty good idea. They don't involve Ayo and they don't involve Kofi. They involve almost everybody else because Adam Miller was great out of the chute.
Yeah, he's certainly hit sort of the skids here. I'm worried about them defensively. Yeah. I think Brad Underwood is too. I think that you look at like the way they've been giving up points. Penn State scored a bunch of points tonight and shot pretty well from the field. Rutgers shot Rutgers scored 91 points, and Rutgers is good, but they're shooting 60% from the field and 55% from three, and Ron Harper's going for 28. Like
how much of that is Kofi, Rob? And again, putting him in ball screens over and over and over and exposing him because he is not.
Yeah, it's part of that, but it's a lot of like veteran guys making stupid mistakes. Like tonight, there was a play where I was guarding Isaiah Brockington for Penn State, and I know I keep a personnel notebook, but I know he's going left, and know he's going left, and everybody in the freaking world knows this dude's going left, right? Yeah. And he just literally torches him. Like, make him go to his right hand. I know that's on the Illinois scouting report. Yeah. And I was a junior. Like, he knows better than that. And they've had a lot of breakdowns. Against Rutgers, they didn't get any 50-50 plays. So I'm concerned about their defense. I know they can score. And they're certainly a viable – like with Kofi tonight, they're in their pick and roll coverage. He was way back. And Myron Jones is just coming off and shooting horse shots for the first 5 minutes of the game. I mean, shooting these pull-ups where he's wide open.
Easy. Yeah. All right, let's move on. The big – topic, and I know you didn't follow it that closely, but I want to get your thoughts on it. Was Calipari's comments on Cam Fletcher, freshman? He came out publicly on Twitter and kind of undressed him. We don't have to go into it too long, but my big thing was I don't think you have to do that to a freshman. I think if it's a senior, that's one thing that you've already built up a relationship with. Most people don't even know the name Cam Fletcher because he was the least heralded of all their freshmen, barely playing. He played a couple minutes. When you saw this, what did you think?
Well, I think I agree with you. Like usually if this was the other way around or a certain different situation, a lot of times if a player is critical of the coach, let's say, they'd all be like, well, keep this in-house. Like, that would be the biggest thing. Like, so there's a double standard here because Cal is allowed to just go and –
But Cal, right? It's his program.
Yeah, right. He can do whatever he wants. Yep. But I think my question for the player would be, all right, you knew what this was. Like, this is Kentucky where you're getting the best dudes in your class. You're getting high-level transfers. Like, you're probably not going to see the floor a ton when you're a freshman. And maybe with them losing, he's thinking, well, I could do better than these dudes. But at the same time, when you've got Terrence Clark and you've got Brandon Boston, those dudes are ranked in the top 15 in their class. They're going to get every opportunity to be successful because that's how Cal has built his program. Like he's built this on getting guys that are highly ranked. They come for a year. And so they're going to get a long leash, right? Like if the second you don't, that's going to get used against him in recruiting. So I think that you have to understand what this is. But at the same time, like I do see where it's like, why are you just crushing this kid? And I think when I look at this from afar, it's like, well, maybe Cal wants him to transfer. Maybe he wants him to leave. Like that could be too. Like maybe
if he does, don't you just go in and tell the kid, hey, you're never going to play here?
That's probably true. Yeah.
Like to me, you don't have to screw this kid in a sense that if he does transfer, now everybody knows there's something up with him. Instead of just saying, hey, you know what, he's going home to tend to some personal problems.
Right.
Protect the kid. That's my only take. But I do wonder, Rob, with them being 1-5, how much this is getting to John Calipari right now, right? This is year, 11 or 12? He set such a high standard early.
Right.
Think about it. First 6 years, they win a title. They go to 2 Final Fours, another championship game. And over the last 5 years, they haven't gotten the Final Four. And now they're 1-5 and could be 1-6. They got Louisville coming up at the Yum Center. So how much is this pressure getting to him? Where, again, it's like dog years for a Kentucky coach, right? I mean, 10 years is honestly like an eternity. Most guys aren't going to last that long. So you just wonder how much this is actually getting to him, the pressure, the stress. It's fine when you're winning. It's the greatest thing ever, especially for somebody like Calipari who loves the attention. It was the perfect marriage when he's winning at the highest level. But the worst thing you can do is what? Set the expectations up here and not live up to them.
That's totally true. And I think you hit the nail right on the head with, like, think about the 2012 team. Like, you're getting Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Marcus Teague, like Darius Miller was a senior on them. Like, they had so many good players, it wasn't even fair. But I think that, he's been around long enough to where he's a big boy. Like, he can handle it. And I do agree. Like, he embraces kind of tension that Kentucky has brought him. And it's been, for the most part, really positive. But I think that as quickly as this can go bad for John Calipari, it can be that quickly fixed because of the way he builds a program.
Sure.
He's one recruiting class away from back to being good and having a top 10 team. It's so funny how, like, in that place, man, it eats coaches up.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. Like, they fired Tubby. Billy Gillespie obviously didn't last on there. It can really, really affect coaches, and they don't stand to lose. Like, that's not acceptable down there. But I do think that with the way that John Calipari recruits, he's a good coach. He's been through, I don't want to say like tough time. He's seen a lot. He's been around the block, that's for sure. I don't think that this is the end by any means, and I don't think that this is something that, like, is ready to break him. I would not say that.
I think it'll motivate him. I think he needs this. I think he got not lazy, but definitely has not been out in the recruiting trail like he was, right? I think, especially this year. I mean, listen, this year, again, recruiting's been so different. It's been all over Zoom. But I do think this will motivate him now to be more active and way more involved in recruiting. My question to you is, the fans have a right to be frustrated with John Calipari. Do you think in Lexington they're going to start saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we need a change. Which, hey, if you're saying that, fans in Lexington, you're idiots. You're absolutely morons. Be careful what you wish for. You had Billy Clyde Gillespie before John Calipari. To me, embrace what you have. Love it. You're always in the hunt for the most part. This year is the exception, and it's not over yet. I don't think there'll be a tournament team this year. I think they've dug themselves too big a hole, Rob, in a league in the SEC that kind of stinks. So I think there's enough
opportunities in conference play to earn some quality wins. That's for sure. I will say this, though. This has to be like the worst year for a team like his that you could ever, like, in terms of the situation.
Yes.
Summer, you have these two transfers. Davion Mintz, was he at Creighton last year?
Yeah, he was at Creighton last year.
Yeah, so he's coming in new. Olivia is new. You've got all these freshmen. You've got all these dudes that haven't been able to play together, and you've got to build a team and make it to where they're competitive at the highest of levels. And that's just, man, this is not the year for that. This is the year for, like, have a team like Creighton, have a group that's experienced, has been together, and knows kind of how this thing works.
Northwestern did hold on 74-67.
Big for them, man. That's a monster. And for Indiana, yikes! Like, that's a game that you have got to win, because
they're going to be all over Archie again, aren't they?
Yeah, man. The Indiana fans. We were talking about Lexington will break you.
Yeah, Indiana's kind of worse in a way, aren't they?
They're worse. Is that what you said?
Kind of, because they're living in the past. Like, they're living like 25 years ago.
No doubt. Like, that's the thing. And when I was at Purdue, even, so I was there. I got there in 2007. All you heard about when we went into Assembly Hall to play was the banners. The banners, the banners this, the banners that. It's like, dude, I was -7 years old when you freaking won that.
Right.
So were all you kids in the student section too. Like, it's clinging to a history that, it hasn't been that way in a long time. So it's still a great program. There's no question. It's probably one of my favorite places to go to see a game, because it's absolutely off the chain. Like, that place,
the best.
It's going. It's really good. But man, that's not a good loss for Indiana there tonight.
Do they still call you all sorts of names when you go back and you do a broadcast, or the league?
Pretty good. So I haven't done a ton of games. I was supposed to do Indiana Purdue last year, and then when Bobby Knight came back, it kind of got changed.
Yeah. They put big boys on that one.
What's that?
They put the A team on that one when they knew that.
Then yeah, it was tough for me. I got to do the studio that day instead. But so I'm there. I've got Northwestern like 2 years ago. And it's my first game back at Assembly Hall doing TV. And I'm sitting there, I make these cards for every game. Like, I make a card like this.
Sure.
And it's stats, it's
whatever you need to know.
No notes, it's all this stuff. It's how I do the game. And I'm reading through them just because I really write all this stuff down, because I memorize it. Like, before the game, I just go through it. It helps me remember stuff. And I'd never look at them hardly during the game. It's just in my mind.
Yep.
So I'm reading these things. I'm going over stuff. And this older gentleman who's like probably in his upper 70s, maybe 80. And dude, this guy taps me on the shoulder. And I'm sitting next to Brandon Gaudin. I think Brandon, though, had gotten up to go get something to drink or something in the media room. And I turn around, and it's this old man, and he looks at me, and he goes, "It's a disgrace that they let you do games here." I thought he was kidding. And I just kind of said, like, I'm just here to do my job. Points to the top of Assembly Hall, and he goes, "They should make you do the game from up there." And he walked away. I was like, it's really good that nothing has changed. But you know what? I respect it. Because the Indiana-Purdue rivalry would not be cool if they were like, "Welcome to Bloomington."
Right. All right.
Bullshit, right? Like, it's way cooler with this old man.
Way better.
Offended that I'm actually calling a game from Assembly Hall. And at the end of the day, I know that for the most part, I used to just ball out at Assembly Hall. So
that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Well, that's not as good as mine. My best one was I'm in Vegas for Summer League, doing games, and I'm doing sideline for the games, and there's this guy who starts absolutely yelling at me nonstop. I'm sitting next to Ben Simmons and his brother at this point, talking to Ben, and there's some guy just screaming at me, and it's not loud. It's like Thomas and Mack. It's Summer League. Right. I think Lonzo was playing the next game or something.
Yeah,
it's damn quiet. This guy is riding me. And I'm trying not to give him the time of day. I don't even want to look at who it is.
I'm
nonchalant about it. I get up after a minute. I kind of peek over. The dude's head-to-toe Kentucky gear. Just killing me. Yelling, profanity. I mean, and everybody in, like, all the sections can hear it because, again, like, it's Summer League. Nobody's saying a word. And I'm just looking at him, and he's got a huge, like, a 40-ounce.
No doubt.
He's pounded.
Alcohol's been flowing out there a lot.
I'm just laughing. I'm like, dude, keep going. Like, I don't care. You're entertaining the crowd. It don't bother me any.
Right.
So anyway, all right. Listen, the team that you trust the most, Rob, not named Gonzaga or Baylor, is who?
This is hard because
I think it's easy.
Well, I think it became easy, but when I was initially thinking about this, I'm looking at all these teams, and I think they just have one or two warts, right?
Yeah.
I'm going Villanova.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
He is really good. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl's really good. They've got maybe one of the best road wins of the year.
Yep.
So I think it's a no-brainer. Everybody else is like, I like Iowa, but defensively they scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think Villanova is the only answer to that question.
Would you take Villanova? And I'm with you 100%. We haven't even mentioned Justin Moore, who's a terrific shooter. They got Caleb Daniels, a transfer from Tulane, who's pretty good. Cole Swider can shoot the hell out of it. Brian Antoine could be back this year. I'm hearing. I don't know if he will or not and how effective he'll be. But they're good. They're experienced. They've won 2 titles. They got a pretty good coach. Would you take Villanova over Baylor?
No.
You wouldn't?
Not at all. The way Baylor defends, the way they can score the ball with all those guards, no chance. They're junkyard dogs. Like they beat the hell out of Illinois. And I do think Illinois is pretty good. They punked Illinois, like physically.
Yep.
And Illinois is a pretty physical team. I think Kansas is interesting, just because this is like a sixth sense, I think, because of the way that I lost to them in my last college game. I knew they were going to win the Texas Tech game. Like, I knew it. And it's Bill Self, dude. He just,
finds a way.
He finds a way. And, the sets after timeouts, I don't know if there's anybody better in the country. He kills it.
Yeah.
He draws stuff up. They always score. The double lob, that play, I saw a ridiculous montage of it working against –
because 15 of them.
Everybody's ready for the first one.
Yeah.
The second one, everybody relaxes. So, I like Kansas for that fact, just because it's like they have 9 lives. It's like with Bill Self, and they do have experience. Like Abaji has been through it. Marcus Garrett is a good player. He's not great offensively, but he has all the intangibles. He's a great leader. David McCormick, to me, has to play better. He's got to give them more consistently. I like Jalen Wilson. I like Kansas' team, but I just think that it's so clear that Gonzaga and Baylor are the best 2 teams that I've seen this year.
So we're getting comments in that they're asking why you hate Tennessee.
Why don't I don't. I really like Rick Barnes. I really am a big fan of Rick Barnes. He's the man. I think with COVID, I honestly haven't gotten to see him enough. Yeah. I don't think they've been tested.
They played Colorado first game, and then they've just been beating the living shit out of people.
John Fulkerson become a player. Pons is a player. And Fulkerson, I've seen him down in the Bahamas.
He's gotten better.
And I was like, man, he's got a long way to go. And he's come a long way. He's good now.
He did have a long way to go. But they've got, Springer's been really good. James wasn't great last year as a freshman, but he's come on a little bit. Keon Johnson. They've got length. They've got athleticism to go along with some older dudes. And again, Pons is a guy who just buys into his role.
Who are they supposed to? They were supposed to play somebody good.
They were supposed to play in Jimmy V against Baylor? No, Baylor was I think it was Gonzaga. It was Gonzaga.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was originally Rutgers Baylor. Then Rutgers bailed. Then the whole thing kind of fell apart. But yeah, it would have been a hell of a game seeing. Although I think Gonzaga would have beaten the shit out of them early. I think Tennessee's going to be that team that honestly could be, by the time we're looking in February, they're number 4 in the country, number 3 in the country, and you're saying, you know what? They match up better than most because they're so athletic and long and can guard. And yeah, they're not going to be able to hang with Gonzaga offensively, probably, but they could really slow down and cause problems for Gonzaga. And Baylor's that one that, like you said, the one thing about Baylor is they can play a lot of different. They've got a team that can score if they want to.
Yep.
They've got a team that can really, really guard. And I don't think there's anybody else like that right now.
I think the biggest question for Baylor for me is the center position. Yeah. Are you just better off going super small and just like being like put Mark Vidal at the 5 and switch 5 ways and just like
Maybe.
Against certain people you can't do that. Like in Illinois, that would not be the answer because of Kofi Coburn. But no, I really was impressed with Baylor and Gonzaga. I always worry about them. Like they're great early. They have to load up their schedule early, and then you play in the WCC. And outside of BYU and St. Mary's, that's not exactly the greatest competition. While other teams are having to test themselves. And now, with that being said, this Gonzaga team is so talented, and like they've got, I mean, Nembhard and Suggs as your point guard is ridiculous. Like
Suggs is your backup point guard. Think about that. I mean, they're going to play them together. I love that they can play those two together because Suggs can do whatever you want him to do, right? You play him on the ball, you can play him off the ball. Is he like who is when you watch him? I've heard so many different comparisons. Dan Dickow gave me the one of Jason Kidd. I don't see that quite as much because he's a better shooter at this stage.
I mean, he hit, 7 threes against Iowa?
I love him because, again, like what doesn't he do well? Now, he can throw the ball around the gym a little bit, right? He's still a freshman who makes mistakes and doesn't value the ball all the time. But ultimately, he's still got incredible court vision, really good passing ability, which I didn't realize he had. And then the shot is way better than I thought. So, like, to me, and I told Cade this, when I talked to Cade about a week and a half ago, and I need to clip that out, but I said, I'm like, hey, man, I had you as the number 1 pick before the season. I'm like, now Jalen Suggs has me thinking long and hard about that. And he looked at me and he's like, no, you're right. Like Jalen Suggs is a terrific player. He's like, I love him.
What about like, I mean, I think of him as a shot-making point guard. Like, I think he's more athletic than Chauncey Billups, but like, I mean, a shot maker like Chauncey Billups, maybe. Like,
I don't think he's that good a shooter.
Right.
I don't think he's like anybody completely. He's got a little bit of jaw because he's athletic and he sees the floor. He can score. He can do everything. He's not jaw. He's not as explosive vertically, right? He's not Derrick Rose.
Was so sick in high school. Like, people understand.
He didn't shoot. He didn't need to shoot.
No, I mean, but he also was. I was so impressed with Derrick, and I know we're talking about Jalen Suggs, but like with Derrick Rose, he was like he didn't care about scoring either.
At all.
No one at that level doesn't care about that. Like everybody that's that good, all they care about is scoring. And the other guys in my class were pretty much like that. You know, like the OJ Mayos, the Eric Gordons.
Right.
Nothing wrong.
That's why it worked with Eric Gordon. That's why it worked, Rob, is because he didn't care. He set Eric Gordon up all day long.
Dude, we played them at the finals of the Peace Jam. You probably were there.
I was there.
And they went into this 2-3 zone, and they had like 3 good players on Mean Streets. They had Derek, Eric, and Tim Flowers, who was just like a 6'5" rebounding machine.
Oh.
They went into this 2-3 zone, and our coach, who is crazy, Wayne Brown, this dude, he's got ideas that are flowing off the wall as a basketball mind. He puts me at the point, and they're in this 2-3 zone, and we played like crap, and he calls timeout, and he's yelling at me, you got to penetrate the gaps of the zone, you got to get through the middle, and I'm looking at Eric Gordon and Derrick Rose who are like half kind of like paying attention, but at the same time, just like that, dudes are freaking taking my ball. Like, dude, I was like, where do you want me to go? Like, really, where do you want me to go? Why is Etuan not playing this? Why is somebody else?
Give Etuan the damn ball. I don't want the ball.
Somebody else the ball. Like, not me. Give Antoine Boyd the ball or somebody. Not me.
That was the best backcourt I've ever seen in AU basketball. Again, Eric Gordon, I think people forget how talented. He's had a lot of injuries.
He was so athletic.
Ridiculous.
He was so athletic. I wish people understood. Like, he's become a really good NBA player, and he's gotten paid a ton of money.
Yep.
And I'm happy for him for that. But man, he was a freak. Like he was built. I mean, his jumper. I remember in the Indiana All-Stars. It's a big thing in the state of Indiana to like. There's this All-Star game we play against Kentucky, and like. It's a who's who of who's played in this game. Like, because Kentucky obviously has great history, Indiana as well. And I just remember seeing Eric and the way he shot the ball with range. like it was nothing.
Yeah.
He's shooting NBA threes as a high school senior, and he's shooting it like it's like a horse shot from the free throw line. And like, dude, I wish that I had those practices on tape because our team was loaded. Jeff Teague, Eric Gordon, Etwan Moore, myself, Scott Martin, Juwan Johnson, Matt Howard. Like the practices, like it was like, I don't want to compare it to this because this is ignorant, but it was like the Indiana high school version of the Dream Team practices in Monte Carlo. Which is like it was really competitive. Our coach, I remember, was super nervous before the first game with Kentucky because he was like, dude, if I lose, I'm gonna look like an idiot. Like, because, you know, I've got so much talent. I've got 5 NBA players on the team and then a bunch of really good college players too. But the practices were awesome.
Couple more quick questions and then we'll roll out of here. Somebody ripping on you saying why your mic's so shiny. It is. It's really shiny.
You told me to get this one. I was an amateur of the mic games, so this is what I got.
Yeah, no, good job. Listen, it's shiny, but it works. That's all that matters, right? Somebody said that Suggs reminds them of Jamal Murray. I think the body reminds me of Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray couldn't and still really doesn't guard. Jalen Suggs has incredible, to me, like anticipation on the defensive end. And I think he could be a great defender, not a good defender. I think he'd be a great
defender. Football?
Yeah.
Yes.
Quarterback and DB, both. Yep. What else? Thoughts on Curbelo's game?
Oh, man, I really like him. I think he's got to learn, especially defensively. But, dude, pick and roll, he is elite. Yeah. I mean, he was setting the table for Kofi tonight, and some of the passes he makes, it reminds me a little bit of playing with Rubio, where I was just in the sense, not so much. I think Ricky's
making,
obviously, but like in the sense that Ricky would hit you in the face with the ball if you weren't ready for it. Like he could literally embarrass you, not intentionally, but you know he's looking guys off and he's throwing it the other way, and like I feel like Curbelo's got that in him. He's got great feel.
The one thing Deion Thomas mentioned about Curbelo, and I don't know if you agree with this, he said he needs to figure out ways to play at different speeds.
Yes, change tempo. I think that's a lot of freshmen, though.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of players that they're used to being faster, so they just burn it.
Right.
Whereas here it's like, dude, if you give a little hesitation, you give a little stop and go, all of a sudden you're really hard to guard.
No doubt. No doubt. What else, Rob? Anything else we got to talk about that we haven't hit on? I got a big haircut tomorrow morning.
That is big. Can I not scroll in the chat? I'm trying to look at more questions here.
NC State, somebody probably coming at me for NC State. You know, like they're okay. I mean, great win against Carolina. Can you sustain it and be more than just a fringe tournament team? Like,
what do you think about Kevin Keith's style of play? I mean,
I like it, but you have to have the right players for it.
No doubt.
Like you have to have a lot of players for it. And I don't think they have enough quality depth to play the way he wants.
You have to have like 10 or 11 dudes.
Right. And he hasn't had it. He
7 or 8 and expect to be able to have gas in the tank.
He had it when Kevin Keats, I'll give you a good story on Kevin Keats. So I used to run this prep school tournament. Okay. I used to run it in New England. It was going to fall apart. A guy named Bobby Jacobs ran it out of Delaware. He also ran Slam Dunk to the Beach, but he ran this prep school tournament. It was going to fall apart completely. He went AWOL. He just went AWOL one year. Nobody could get a hold of him. And I was covering all the prep schools because I live out here in New England and I was doing recruiting at that time. And so they all call on me every day. Kevin Keats was at Hargrave, Chris Chaney down at Patterson, Jason Smith at Brewster. They're wearing my ass out. Winchendon, Mike Burns. And I'm like, finally, guys, I'm like, screw this. Like, I'm going to get everybody on a conference call so people aren't wearing my ass out and we'll figure out what we can do. I ended up taking over the tournament. Making no money, moving it every year to a different venue. I had no idea what I was doing. But anyway, so Keats was at Hargrave, and I joke with him because he was always the biggest pain in the ass scheduling wise. He'd want a cupcake, and then he'd want like one tough game, one good game, and then a complete cupcake. So now when I see a schedule at NC State, it's the same deal. Like he'll play a bunch of cupcakes in like the 300s, and then he'll play a couple tough games in the non-conference. At least he's playing a couple good games, unlike this year, like Arkansas. Like Arkansas is my mystery team right now. Sure. I have no idea. I think they're good. Like, I think Moses Moody is really good. They've got some freshmen, Jalen Tate, some transfers in there. Muss, I think, is a good coach. But, man, like, you have no idea how good they are. I'm going to read you the teams they have played. They're 8-0, okay? And in Ken Palm, I'm going to try to get this up here. All right, Mississippi Valley State, 357. North Texas, 102. UT Arlington, 163. Lipscomb, 220. Southern, 283. Central Arkansas, 245. Oral Roberts, 182. Abilene Christian yesterday, 122. That, to me, is – and again, listen, a lot of these aren't the fault of the coaches because they had a different schedule at one point.
This year's a different –
I'm not blaming it on them. I'm just saying they are a complete mystery to me and everybody. And people, they wanted this last year with me too. You know, why don't you rank them? Why don't you rank them? Now, last year, they didn't play anybody either for the most part. So I guess I would still say I know what your schedule and model is. And I'm going to say, like, no, I'm not going to put you in the top 25 and give you the benefit of the doubt because last year you played a shit-ass non-conference schedule too.
That's totally fair. I like the comment down here. I'm looking – Bryce, you're doing a great job at Grand Canyon. Dude, I got to get Bryce. I got to get a hold of him and add him to the wall here. That's like my child.
You got to get Bryce?
I got to get Bryce through signed Valpo jersey. That would be –
We'll get him on here. We'll get him on the pod.
Valpo, Indiana pod.
Yeah, we could do that. Hey, listen, we could easily – I don't know how well it works in this thing, if it'd be too slow. I think we tried it with 4 people, and it depends on the Wi-Fi speed. But if we could get both Drew brothers, we could do it on a Zoom call for sure. And just
play. They're the best. They're good.
They just don't talk trash to each other. They're too nice to each other.
They're super nice. Everybody is super nice in that family. Like from Homer, Janet.
Oh, like I want dirt. When I call Bryce to get dirt on Scott, there's like nothing there. It's like if I want to call Painter for dirt on you, I'm going to get some good dirt. Like you can't get anything from that family. It's like a vault, either a vault or the fact that they don't do anything wrong.
I think they're just too nice. Like I've never heard like a bad thing about Bryce. Seriously. Like
ever.
And like I grew up and like he was like my idol. Like I have Bryce Drew's autograph on Gatorade cups. I used to go over to his parents' house because one of my best friends from elementary school lived like right behind him. We'd like ring his doorbell and like get his autograph. Like
really,
Homer had to think I was insane, and that's hurting me. As a sophomore,
you literally go to his store, ring his doorbell, and ask for his autograph. Yeah. How old were you? Like 8,
7 or 8? Yeah. Like, and Bryce would
be
there.
Parents would do this.
They were always super nice. They never were like, "Dude, get the hell out of here," which they should have. But like you said, they're too nice.
When you left,
what's that?
When you left, they probably closed the door and they're like, that kid's parents, man. Like that kid's parents should know better. They got to keep that kid away.
Couldn't have been blamed on my parents. They could have, but I was at my best friend's house, and we'd just be out in his backyard shooting hoops on his basketball court. And we would Bryce had a really cool court in his backyard. We'd always be looking down there to see if he was shooting, which rarely was he, because at this point he's in college, right? But man, I have Bryce's autograph so many times. Like,
how far did you live from him?
From where his parents lived?
Yeah,
less than a mile. Like he was really close. If we were in the same class, we would have went to the same elementary school. Wow. Like if we were the same age.
Yeah. Wow, it's crazy. All right, well, listen. We'll talk. What is today? Today is Wednesday. All right. Well, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, and everybody listening for sure.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody, and we will see you next week.
Sounds good.
Later.
See ya.